Awesome. We're going to welcome Kennedy back to the stage, everybody. And here we go.
Thank you. Now, we're going to get to the fun stuff. I mean, mindset, very important. Now we're getting to talking about money. Because it doesn't matter if we talk about mindset, how you think, when we don't talk about real money, right? So we'll talk about money. So this is going to be like a class working session. We just got some red binders distributed on the tables. So I would want you to have it. Now, before we get there, I noticed she asked if we're doing the solar system here and stuff. The reason I brought this picture is so that you can appreciate something that we take for granted. Who has an idea what this is? Anybody? She says an atom. Anybody else? Yeah, actually that's an atomic structure. What is an atom? An atom is the smallest component of any mineral, any element, which means atoms come together to form molecules, molecules come together to form the element itself, and elements come together to form the tissues we have in our bodies. This thing has atoms in it. Everything is made up of, that's the basic structure of how things are made, that atom. And this atom is simply a nucleus, and it has electrons revolving around it all the time. They're floating in space. So if you were to break down your body and go down to your muscle or your bones and keep going down, you will end up here with something that is hollow, that is space. And those electrons just floating around, and they float in a very specific manner. Every time an electron changes its floating pattern or its orbital pattern, that element changes its name. And in order to move from one element to another, you just have to change the structure of how the atoms and molecules and everything are done. Why did I put this picture? This is the solar system. The Earth and the Sun and all the other planets. This is it. Isn't it striking how this here looks identical like this? Which means that the smallest particle we have in our bodies has the same system as the whole universe. That's something we don't think about. We just live life. Who will go thinking about all these things? But I simply want you to see how amazing this whole system that we live in was created. And I get astounded when people tell me that all this thing just came out randomly. This cannot be random. It can never be random, because if any planet here misses its track, this Earth we are on, it's floating in space. If something happens and it misses its track, it's catastrophic. But it maintains that position, floating in space with nothing attached to it. And that's how the system is built. And so what we have in our bodies, right deep in our bones, is the same as the whole universe functioning. That shows how amazing. And now, why do I bring it here? I bring it here to show you that every system that exists has a set of principles that hold it together. It doesn't function spontaneously or randomly. Now, let's talk about personal finances. And today I'm going to pick just one topic in personal finances, and that's budgeting. Before putting this slide, I was going to ask you, When we have Parliament coming at the beginning of the fiscal year, what do they debate about the most? Budget, right? When we have a company, every company has a functioning budget. And in that budget, they have sub-budgets. They have budgets for marketing, budget for this, budget for that. No system functions properly financially without a budget. Every country votes a budget. Every system, financial system, has a budget. Who here has a personal budget? Good. I like that. You cannot understand money and grow money and become financially successful if you don't apply a budget, if you don't have one. Interestingly, many people budget because we do it naturally and not consciously. Everybody has an idea what they're going to the market to buy. Everybody knows approximately what they spend on this and that and that. It's that doing it naturally that fails us the most. I want you to understand that the core of every financial system is how its budget is managed. And for you, I want you to take your life today as a business. Take your finances as a business and do that for 3 years and see how everything changes. I ask many people, how much do you spend on groceries? They say, approximately, because you make a list based on what you need in the house, not based on the budget you have. When I ask people, how much is your income? Everybody knows how much they make, but people really don't know how much they spend and how they spend their whole paycheck. They just discover that it's 2 or 3 weeks or 2 days or 4 days before the end of the pay period, and they're running low and they're waiting for the next pay to pay bills and stuff. If you live life spontaneously, you are like that planetary system that is floating randomly, and it will lead you to trouble at some point. So I want you from today to make a decision that you are not just gonna live life, but manage your personal life as a business. Take it serious. If you're not serious about money, you will not have money. That's a fact. And it doesn't take much. It takes just a couple of years of restructuring how you approach money, how you manage money, and things will change for you. So, what's a budget? So easy. Budget is a financial calculation plan that defines how you manage your money over a set period of time. Most times it's monthly or yearly budget. When we talk about why you should have a written budget, and this is where the problem comes. Many people budget in their heads, in their minds. They never actually have an actual budget. I want you to run your life from today as a business. I want you to have a binder at home with a budget that is written down, discuss it with yourself or with your spouse or partner, and see how you can track every dollar and manage things. You cannot manage what you don't know. Again, people know how much they make, but they usually don't account for how all their money disappears. So a budget will simply help you to tell your money where to go instead of wondering where your money went. Many people wonder where it went. Just take your T4, see how much money. You'll be surprised I made all this money last year. But you don't know how you managed to spend all that, and it all disappeared. The reason is because you weren't tracking your money as a business. You were just leaving it spontaneously. So your budget helps you. And today, I'm not just gonna teach you about budgeting. I personally printed out spreadsheets so that you can go with it back home and use it to manage your finances from today. That's my gift for you. So when you go with these spreadsheets, I want you to photocopy them because it's gonna be a trial and error. If you've never used the personal budget, you need to track it for about 3 months and see how it's feeling, and then change it and redesign things here and there. But once you get a hold of your money, you will be surprised how much money you can save and then invest. Now, when it comes to budgeting, the biggest issue is that there's a whole different types of budgeting. And budgeting is like, our lives are all different. You cannot teach budgeting and expect that everybody should apply the same kind of budget and manage their lives, because we all come from different positions. Somebody here has a lot of debt, another person has no debt. Somebody's a business person, another person works on a job and has a steady salary. Somebody earns commissions from selling stuff and doing things. these people, because of their different backgrounds and different life situations, cannot have the same type of budget. So I'm going to be showing you the different types of budgets that exist out there. And why am I presenting all these budget types? So that you can do a self-assessment to see what works for you based on your life situation, your personality, and where you want to go in life. Not everybody wants to be rich. Not everybody wants to be financially, have too much excess. Somebody just needs to be financially free. One thing I know is that everybody should have a plan to work towards financial freedom. If you don't have a desire to work towards financial freedom, you have simply made a commitment to be a slave your whole life and work for other people. See, I tell people that when I started this journey, God, or whatever you call him, took me into the future and brought me back. Now, how did he take me into the future? I worked as a healthcare aide in this country. I made $16 an hour. Because of my desire to learn money and to become financially free. And I might not have time to say all this today. In some other sessions, I'll teach you how to use desire and how to really send that signal to God and get what you want. I truly desire to be financially wealthy. I'm one of those people who went on Google and typed how to become a millionaire in America. Google should be the last place you can search such type of thing because there's all random things on Google. But that's how desperate I was, because in the society I could not find wealthy people, because everybody appears wealthy, but who actually is wealthy? But that just simply shows how strong my desire was. And that's the backbone of you realizing whatever you want to. If you leave here today and make a strong commitment and build a desire to become whatever you want, all those things about mindset that we taught here will come to work for you at that point. And that's the power I told you that I've discovered how to use that power. I don't know how it works, but I'm just going to keep using it, because you don't need to know how it works. You need to know how to use it. That's all we need to know. 9 types of budgeting or budgets. The first one is a traditional budget. A traditional budget is what many people do. What's a traditional budget? A traditional budget simply means that you subtract all your expenses from your income. The leftover is what you spend or make additional payments towards debt or something. That's what most people are comfortable with. When they get their money, the paycheck, they always know that this is for rent, this is for bills, this is for this, and this. The rest is usually like, we'll spend it and then wait for the next paycheck. So that's usually a traditional budget. And when I present all the budgeting types, I will show you how each budget can work based on your situation and your personality type. The next, and I'm listing this thing here because in reality, if I take one type of budget, I can elaborate on that budget, its advantages, its disadvantages, how to use them and everything. But the timekeeper gives me just 20 minutes to present all of this. And that's why I had to build a Rise and Shine University, because on the Rise and Shine University, everything is elaborated. It's a whole lesson on budgeting. So the second budgeting is the 50-30-20 budgeting. This type of budgeting means that 50% goes towards necessary expenses. Those is like your rent, your mortgage, those necessary expenses. 30% goes towards discretionary expenses. And then your 20% that is left goes towards savings, or you're paying off your debt. Again, when you choose a budget type, you will need a spreadsheet to have all your numbers and have the figures written down. It's one thing to have your month planned ahead, so that when your paycheck comes, you divide them in different categories and you can manage the month. And when you start doing this, you relieve a lot of mental pressure that we have. Next type of budgeting is a zero-based budget. Zero-based budget means that the balance in your account is zero at the end of your budgeting. This does not mean that you spend all your money. It simply means that instead of the first one where you pay your bills and stuff and then you use the rest, no, you're not going to do that. You have a spreadsheet where you account for every dollar, including discretionary and voluntary activities, which means in that budget sheet, you have money for recreation and maybe going to play with your kids. If you know that you like watching movies with your kids, you put it there. If you have to send money to your family back in Africa, you have a specific amount. So you make sure that you account for every dollar in your paycheck. That's for people who want to get really serious about budgeting. And when we go to the budget types, there is some personality types that really don't need that detail in their life because it wouldn't work for them. Zero-based budget means that you plan everything ahead. And it takes a lot of emotional intelligence to do budgeting. And I'm going to talk about the Rise and Shine University as if I'm making an advertising for it, but it's the truth of what it is. I have a whole lesson on emotional intelligence because it takes a lot of emotional intelligence to be financially free and to be wealthy. When you start making money, a lot of things are going to come to you. Your whole family and friends, they're going to come to you with serious problems. Sometimes it will take a lot of courage for you to not send money. And if you don't have that emotional capacity to control those situations using a budget too, you will end up being that voluntary person who ends up burning themselves in order to keep other people warm. Yes, they will call you stingy. They will call you wicked. Because they see your pictures on Facebook, they think you have money sitting around and you have to give it to them. And that's where the emotional intelligence, I call it financial emotional intelligence. I have a whole lesson on that. The next budget type is goal-based budget. We do this naturally. Who here remembers when they were saving their down payment for their first house, they saved money so fast and so quick? That was a goal-based budgeting. So your budgeting, your saving, your budget is based on a goal that you want to achieve at that point. It could be buying your house, it could be paying off your car, it could be doing stuff. So people sometimes design budgets based on a particular goal they want to achieve at that time. But I don't want you to end there. I want your whole financial situation to be a budgeting system. Because when I teach people, I talk about real estate. It's interesting to see that people save money for down payment. And after they buy that house, they never, ever in their whole life have that kind of money in their bank account again. Because now their whole life goes towards paying for that house, paying for all the expenses, and life just goes in cycles. I will talk about the immigrant cycle after this. And remember, when I talk about immigrants, it's everybody. Because somehow, great-great-great-grandparents came from somewhere. This world has always been people migrating from one place to another. So it's not just about those who just came yesterday, it's about everybody. I just need to use the word immigrant without any offense because sometimes you just need to choose a niche in the community, right? The next budget type is the spending cap budget. With the spending cap, the person who practices this puts a maximum limit on what they have to spend and then use the rest the way you like. So this person prioritizes spending. This is how much I have to spend this month on all these things. The rest, I can use it the way I want. If you go on the online platform, you will have all the details about a spending cap budget. It's a very great type of budget too for most people. Now, the envelope system budget is a little bit archaic, but it works for people who want that visual motivation. I'm a visual person. I still carry money in my wallet all the time. I like to have some money in my wallet all the time. I like to see it. It works for me. So envelope-based budget, which in these days can still work if you can separate your money into bank accounts. You can create separate bank accounts and share your money online. But envelope-based means that you pull out all your money, your paycheck, then you split them up into envelopes. Some people need that kind of discipline in order to manage money. That's what the envelope-based budget is. I know this is going to disappear at some point because eventually we're going to get into a community where cash is not available. You might have to have other softwares and maybe bank accounts that split your paycheck. Now the next one is pay yourself first budget. Now with pay yourself first budget, this type is when you put you first and your financial goals and your future health goals and what. And then the bills and other expenses can come after. Some of my tenants, I think they do this type of budgeting. Because it's always like, Kennedy, I'll pay you on Friday when I get my paycheck, right? So it's like, okay, you can tell that person did not have a wholesome budget for the month because they do things first and then wait for that last paycheck to pay your rent and whatever. But the reality is, when you start practicing budgeting to plan the whole month, and in the spreadsheets I gave you, you can even break it down into weeks. All the 4 weeks of the month, you know exactly how to do it so that when your paycheck comes to you, you know where to send each dollar. Again, a budget tells your money where to go instead of you wondering where your money went. Because money, if you don't have a plan for it and you don't direct it, it's gonna go where it wants to go. And in most cases, you will end up wondering where they went to. And that's why most people make $60,000, $70,000 on their T4, but they have nothing to show for it. Number 8 is the sub-savings account budget. Sub-savings account budget is mostly for people who have a project, have a savings account, savings cap, but divide them into sub-savings. So you have 10% of your budget going for savings, but under the 10% you have maybe 3% for your car payments, 5% for your this, no, not car payment, we're talking about savings. There's savings for your, maybe you want to buy a house, you want to buy this, so you subdivide the savings. So it's more about savings, but dividing them into specific goals that you want to save. The last one is the anti-budget budget. Interesting that I call it anti-budget budget, right? Now, the anti-budget budget is more like the opposite of the traditional budget. So here, it's the most relaxed type. You put whatever you want towards savings first, then pay bills and expenses. Whatever is left, you use it the way you want. Remember, for the first one, you pay your expenses first, you pay your bills, everything, and then use the rest of your money. But here's the opposite. You first of all put whatever you want towards your savings and your stuff, and then you deal with the landlord after. You can even tell him that you don't have money, right? So these are the budget types that we have, 9 of them. Now, why did we structure to have 9 budget types? Because everybody is at a particular position in life and they should not apply the same budget that another person is using. And that's why it comes to the point of, how do you choose a personal budget? How do you choose what works for you? Now, choosing a personal budget is like having a fitness goal. If I were to come here and let's lose weight and let's everybody do this and it's gonna work, it doesn't work that way. It has to be personalized based on the person, where they are and where they want to get to. So that's the approach you have to get when you want to choose a budget type. But before you choose a budget type, you need to know the numbers. You need to know what you're doing. You cannot choose a budget when you don't even know your numbers. You cannot manage what you don't know, let me put it that way. And so for you to get to that point of choosing a budget, you need to know your budget, your numbers. And that's where this spreadsheet. So I want you to open your spreadsheets now and see what I have in there for you. So the screen I have here is the same that you have with you. Now on that screen, that is we call it a budgeting spreadsheet. What does a budgeting spreadsheet help you do? It helps you know exactly how you spend your money. You need to know that. And that's why when I ask a house woman that, how much do you spend on groceries in a month? It's usually an approximation, because it depends on what they need in their home at that time and everything. And if you go month to month without knowing exactly what you spend on groceries, what you spend in your car, what you spend on this, you will always wonder where your money went. So what I want you to do is manage your household, manage your finances like a business, which means that you take this spreadsheet and then you track your finances for the next 3 months. So for the first month, every time you spend money, you write it down under a category. I've tried to put all the different sectors and categories there. We start with income. You need to know how much you make. It could be your paycheck. It could be all the income types that you have. So the first section of that sheet has income. Put down all the income sources that you have. Maybe you have an extra business and you have a job and you have this. You put them down and you see how much you make in terms of income. The second part of the sheet has all the possible expenses that you can have. Remember on that sheet I put other at the bottom because there are some things that you could be spending that I don't know. If you do this for 3 months, you will have an approximation and then you take the average of each column, you will know what you should be spending exactly. My goal is not to have you go through a difficult life because you want to restructure your finances, but to redesign it in a way that does not make you feel stressed out. And if you do this correctly, The goal would be for you to enjoy the things that you want more and completely cut out what does not serve you. When you do that, you will see a lot of money sitting in your account. Because most of the time we end up spending money on things that really we did not have to spend, but because we did not have a budget and a plan in the first place, we just spend money spontaneously. So if you can do this with your household, do this as a challenge for yourself. Have that budget spreadsheet. Remember, before you use it, photocopy it and keep another one so that if you mess up this one, you can use it. On the Rise and Shine University, I have that spreadsheet as a fillable PDF so that when you're filling in the figures, it's adding up and showing you the totals at the bottom. I bet you many people, if you see anybody who's struggling financially, that person, one, probably does not have a budget that they use. Number two, that person is living equal or above their means and their earnings. When we grew up, our parents told us to live according to your means. So your coat according to your size. I'm sure we all heard that. And that went into our heads, and somehow we live according to our means. Have you noticed that the person who makes $4,000 a month, another person makes $2,000 a month, one other person makes $7,000 a month, but they all end up with the same bank balance at the end of the month, $0. They don't start with the same income, but they end up with the same result. Why? Naturally, we have a tendency of adjusting to our income levels. It's a natural tendency, and it all comes from that subconscious programming where we were advised to live according to our means. So if you don't have a budget, regardless of how much you make, you will always adjust your life. You can get a promotion at a job. You can go back to school and get a job that pays more. Your life will always adjust. But when you have something like this that disciplines you to keep that spending, keep you in the same bracket where you want to be, you will see a lot of money sitting on the corner, and that's when you can invest that money and do other things. So budgeting is super important, and knowing how to do it. So on that spreadsheet, the first part talks about all your income. The second part is all the possible expenses you can ever get. And when you finish filling that information, take a calculator or your phone, add up all your income, add all your expenses, and subtract the second from the first. I bet you will be amazed to discover that you are in the negative. Many people live above their income without knowing. The only time they know is when they are short of money before it's the next pay period. And they do that for a whole year, and they get a T4 that says they make $67,000. But you're still broke, you're still struggling. So, this is what I want you to do. Try this for you, not for me. Track your income, manage your life and your finances like a business. You must have a budget plan. And then how to choose that budget plan depends on one, your personality. How do I like to live my life? I want you to manage your finances in a way that works for you and makes you enjoy life. Which means when you do that, you will end up doing more. Somebody likes camping, going out in nature and doing all that. Somebody prefers to build a life where they are so busy on their business, working 24/7. We are all different. But in reality, when you track your money, track every dollar you make, have a budget spreadsheet, start doing these things, you will know where to make adjustments. Because if you're spending more than what you're making, you definitely need to make an adjustment. And I will repeat this. I don't know how to do it so that it gets into everybody's head. You must live below your expenses. Below. Many people try to meet up. And I said this, sometimes I do a lot of social media. Sometimes it sounds rude. There is somebody living in a house, and that person is supposed to be renting a studio somewhere or an apartment. There's somebody who's living in an apartment, but their financial level would need them to live in a one-bedroom house. The problem is we try to want to catch up and live according to standards, not according to our income. If you design your life based on your income, you will realize that you start keeping money aside, and someday you will grow based on how your money is growing. When you live above your means because you're trying to meet up, you're simply committing a slow suicide for yourself. That's the basis of financial literacy. As much as it sounds so basic, 90% of people who are struggling, they either don't have a budget, they don't follow a budget, or they live above their means. And living above your means in this world sometimes is a choice. Somebody's driving a brand new car here and they're not even supposed to be driving a brand new car and paying $700 for car payments every paycheck. Somebody's living in a brand new house and they got convinced by a realtor and they bought the house that is bigger than them. I call it buying a house that is, well, it's bigger than what you're supposed to. It's bigger than your financial level. Sometimes I tell people, if you don't know what to expect or what to do, get advice from somebody. Unfortunately, most advice we get either come from the bank, some government official. I love realtors. I work with them. But the truth is, the person who will decide about the house you should live in should probably not be a realtor. A realtor sells houses. And in most cases, a realtor is representing you and representing the seller too. And he makes his commission from the seller, not you. So if he's going to favor somebody, it's the other person. But he's here advising you and you trust. Now, the idea is that I'm not trying to put down realtors. The thing is that you need a global picture of your finances, where you want to go in life. If I buy this property, will it help me reach my goal in life? I've seen people who've ended up buying very good houses. We come and we do a housewarming party. Your house is so beautiful. But that man or woman ends up working day and night to pay for the house that they are not even sleeping in. What's the point? What's the point of working every night and not even sleeping on your bed and you're paying for that bed? And you're driving a car that you basically mostly just use to go to work so you can pay for that same car and pay for the house. But if you can apply these things and have that financial discipline to restructure your life, if you are already there, you need to work with a financial specialist to see how you can go from there. I'm not saying that buying a house is bad. You could have bought it already, but you can still go from there to somewhere. I like talking with new immigrants very much because most of them have not stuck up themselves in that mud or are not stuck yet. It's easier to redesign at that point, but somebody who's already there still needs a financial plan, have a budget, follow it, and you'll see your debt disappear like nothing. You will see those things go. You will see your car paid off, and now you make a plan to take that extra money and pay off your house and be financially free. So that's the reason why I brought this financial thing. In subsequent sessions, because my goal is that after today, we'll have a system where we can come together like this in Top Finances and network and build stuff and grow, and people can see their finances change. So that at some point, we can have workshops where everybody has that sheet and it's filling it with their own personal finances. Because sometimes if I give you these things and you go home and there's nobody to work with you, you might not have the time to work on these sheets. But if we have a session where we're actually doing a live session and you are putting in your own finances, and from what you get, we can now talk and see how to design a structure for you. That would be good. That's why I don't want to teach this and just let it go. I want to build a system where we can meet at least once monthly. And in order to do that, we need a system that can sustain itself. Sustainability is important. So if you're willing, and that's something that I have in another lecture, 10% of your income should, I usually put 5%, but because I talk to a lot of Christians and it shows that they have to put aside 10%, which is called tithe, 10% should go towards donation, and 10% of your income should naturally be invested in you growing as a human being. We often forget that. You pay all the bills, you do everything, you forget to invest in you. Honestly, when you leave here today, if you don't register to come here every month and we do this, I want you to put 10% of your money and go join any group that can teach mindset and financial literacy. If you don't find a group, I want you to buy a book every month and read. My friend Jimmy, I will talk about him some other time. He's a good guy. So that's what you should do. It doesn't just suffice to know how money works. As a human being, you need to grow mentally every time. So invest 10% of your money. As much as your money is not enough, you still have to invest 10% of it. That's how you grow. Because people who often say, I don't have money, end up not having more money, and it just makes their situation worse. I hope you got some idea about what budgeting is all about. The importance of budgeting. Realize that if you're struggling financially, there's no magic. You either don't have a budget that fits you and that you are using, or you're probably living above your means without realizing, and you need to make a structural readjustment in your whole finances so that you can finally live a good life. That's the goal of all this. I hope this makes sense. Thank you.